Welcome everybody to episode 145 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We are your host, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, in the heat of the West and Eastern Conference Finals. How are we today?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. I'm actually really pumped up for this show. I think the last couple of weeks we've had some good OG
Some
original content.
high octane basketball happening.
Plus all the basketball's been going on. So I've been really enjoying the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Hanging out, talking cards with you. And I think this week's going to be exactly the same. So last week we had a lot of stuff left over at the bottom of the sheet. So I feel like we could almost do 2 shows this week. We got so much stuff happening.
Yeah, there's a lot. It must be this time of year.
Yeah, that's it. It's just absolutely pumping. So let's just get straight into it, ads. Let's do this.
Any big news?
Look, I think the biggest thing that's been sitting on my mind this week is this huge sale of the Jordan rookie card, the 1984 Star.
Yep.
It was sold in a private sale for $925,000. The sale was verified through Darren Rovell and the Clicked, I hope I said that appropriately, media.
Yeah.
And then also through the acquire.co site. So population 3 on this PSA 9. And then I think for me, what this started in my own head was this debate between the 1984 Star and the 1986 Fleer, which most people would consider the 1986 Fleer to be the true rookie card, or I'm using air quotes now, and I'm not trying to trigger people. I'm just trying to create conversation and, which is the more iconic, which one is the one that you'd prefer. So I think I'm going to turn that straight over to you, Ad. Where do you sit on this side of the fence? Are you with the 1984 Star? Are you with the 86 Fleer?
I think I've been back and forth on this quite a bit. It's I agree with a lot of the cases for the Star being the actual rookie card because it's a 1984 card. Like it's 84, 85. It's not 86, 85, 86.
Yeah.
Do you know like it's and then you talk about licensed, unlicensed product. I don't know.
So, and just to go on from that too, so technically Star did have the license at that time. Yeah. And I think this is where a lot of the debate and I'm not saying misinformation, but people's perceptions of the card, do vary because reading through, there's a lot of information out there and this is the perfect time to segue into that. So what I did do was I put up a post on our own social media pages, but I also put one onto Sports Cards Nonsense. So Sports Cards Nonsense, Jesse, Mike, thank you so much, and all the admin for letting us put that post up. We really appreciate it because, you have 200,000 members and the amount of people in comments on there was just absolutely huge. And it's very informative too. And I think also too is sometimes that page can be not respectful, but what I observed on that post, and I think that was a little bit of luck, it also could have been moderation. People were very respectful and went back and forth and sort of, fleshed it out a bit. So to talk about that, specifically, so that's one of my takeaways. So I think one of the successes or failures of a card or a product, and this is probably what we're seeing between Panini and Fanatics at the moment now too, is the differences in distribution methods. So a strong argument can be made that one of the failures for that Star card was distribution. So it was essentially you had to fill out like a mailing form and purchase it through mail, or you had to get it at a local arena or local establishment. So I think that's, for me, a really interesting part of that card. Actually, it was licensed, Dad.
Yeah,
that's maybe a misconception of what sometimes people think, is that it's, it's unlicensed, which is a fun debate in itself, I think also too, or, discussion in itself. And then I think maybe I missed a little bit here with cost too. So the Star PSA 9 sold for $927K. For relativity, the PSA 9 Fleer last sale was $17,000. And the PSA 10 is $168. So I think in terms of where people are putting their money into and what the people want, well, clearly what the people want is the Star card and what they're happy to pay for. I think at the end of the day, what's driving up this price at such a different level is the rarity of it. There's so many less graded at that high level compared to the Fleer. So I think that's a big part of it. And we do talk about population quite regularly on the show when we're talking about the ultra modern stuff with, the Luka rookies, the Zion rookies, the Ja et al. Yeah. And I think the last thing that really has influenced people's decision on which card they prefer is the aesthetics of the card. And I think that's something that we talk about also too, is what cards look good. I think the easiest one that comes to my head that's a good cheap card is the Baby Kaboom. And we've been flogging that bandwagon for a little while too. And
true.
that really influences people in terms of what do they want from a card. You know, they look at the star card and say, it looks like dog shit. So I don't want that card. I want this iconic Jumpman card, which is the 86 Fleer. And, you know, I think that is also the really fun part of this hobby.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
it's healthy debate, isn't
that's
it?
right. There's 120 people in this conversation, and there's
over 300 comments on the sports card nonsense one. Like,
that's right.
And it's interesting. It's back and forth. It's not. It's not. There's no animosity.
The division. That's right. And the division between the voting is actually not as far away as what you'd imagine. So I personally, and this is also where it gets a little bit tricky too, because I tried to write the post in terms of being very open-ended. So the question that was asked was
very simple, wasn't it? It was
simple question, Fleer or star. And where it gets a little bit complicated is people do factor in all sorts of different things when they're bringing through their answer. So I think if you have to say one or the other, I'm going for the Fleer. I think that is the card that I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
And if people differ on their opinion from me just because they say, well, actually, it's not the rookie card, that's totally fine. Like, I actually don't disagree with that, but I prefer and I covet that card, a lot more than the star card. And then the other thing that comes to my mind too, can I be honest with you, is, and again, this is very subjective, and I'll even use the word allegedly here just so I'm covering myself entirely.
Yeah.
I think there is a little bit of back and forth on this in terms of the cards that were printed and were supposed to be discarded and then were ended up being sold. The printing plates are still in existence. There's all these different print runs of the card. And I think people who are very experienced within the hobby can easily tell them apart. But I think if you're someone like me who, I love Jordan, I love basketball, but I would never tell everyone that I'm an expert on this. I would never tell you that either. And so for me, it's not that obvious, can I be honest with you, that that's actually the case. And so now, being fair to the Fleer card, this is the most counterfeited card basically in, sports cards history. So it's not like either card, comes without its problems. But I think this is where I'm going to, firmly plant my feet on this. I wouldn't touch this anything other than PSA, because if you're going to be spending even greater than, in my head, probably $300. That's probably where my sort of, risk profile lies at this stage.
Yeah.
If I'm spending more than $300, I want that money back guarantee. I want that assurity that, okay, if it's fake, well, then great, I'm going to get my cash back from PSA.
Yeah.
BGS is not doing that. And there's a really fantastic and fun one I'm going to talk to you later on the show about this. That's exactly that, scenario playing out. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to chatting with you about that one too. So
God,
should we talk about the final scores, or do you want to add something to that little diatribe?
Look, I read through some of the comments, and one of the top comments was very simple. The 86 is an iconic card.
Yeah.
When
aesthetically iconic.
People recognize that card as the Jordan rookie because it's always had that reputation, right?
Yeah.
That said, there's a case that the star is. And
so where I lay on that now is that I don't view it as the rookie card anymore. I just view that as Jordan's most iconic card. And that's probably where my head has changed a little bit after reading through all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? But despite that, I'm still choosing the Fleer because aesthetically, I just think that is a much nicer card and something that I would prefer to have into my collection.
Were there multiple cards in this run from 1984?
So in that set, there's different sets, essentially like insert. And then after that, there was different runs of that card printed exactly the same, but that are not considered to be the rookie card. But that's the one I was referring to before, in that someone like me that has, very limited knowledge or relatively limited knowledge on this, if you show me the two cards, I might not be able to differentiate between the two. Whereas someone who's expert can say very quickly, very clearly, this is the true rookie. This is the...
Yeah. Undoubtedly. That's a massive sale though. Like you look at the last sold data on, and I've got the card ladder stuff up for those playing at home. But if you go to the BGS 9.5, that hasn't been sold since 2015. That's also got a pop count of 3, and that sale back then was 52,000.
Yeah.
That's almost 10 years ago. Yeah, no, the Star was sold in February 2015 for $52,500.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that would have appreciated quite nicely in that time.
I tend to agree.
Yeah.
Tend to agree. But it's interesting that the pop count being 3 is very important there.
Extremely important. So my recollection about all of this through COVID was that people were speculating that the 86 Fleer was going to be $1 million card at one point.
We spoke about this like literally as one. It's one of the first episodes we did, I think, with because that was part of the Luba manifesto that sort of fanatics were coming out and making cards great again.
And if you go to the all-time stats on the 86 Fleer, and now I'm saying allegedly, there was allegedly investment groups led by celebrities. So like Marky Mark, I believe Bill Simmons was in this investment group. I believe KD got caught up in this too. And they were sort of like basically bidding against each other and rising that price up. So that $600,000 plus sale was all during that sort of crazy COVID time. And again, when people were speculating out that card was going to be $1 million. So realistically,
February 21.
I think the bet that they made wrong was that they basically bet on the wrong card. I think it's really obvious to me now that the star card is going to be the $1 million Jordan rookie card. Obviously, we've had other Jordan cards that have gone, much higher.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we should just touch on a little bit too is that, my feeling about this card is I just don't see the value in it because of the print run. I've said this before, so I'm just repeating myself again. The print run, the possibility for it to be fraudulent or cut, etc., etc. It doesn't have a patch in it, doesn't have an autograph on it. It's literally
just a card.
1986 cardboard. And so I'd love to speak to someone like a huge MJ collector and say, why don't you buy these hand over fist? Why are you buying his patch autograph stuff? Because actually I wonder in the long term if, we're talking about this and it's getting a lot of shine and all that type of stuff, but then people in the background are just sitting there just snapping up these, delicious patch autographs of Jordan that he's never signing again. I think I don't think that's even controversial to say.
I can't imagine he would be. Like,
what is the scenario that plays out that he signs again in, official?
He's a
NBA?
gambler. I'm kidding. He's a billionaire. There's no reason. Like,
I reckon a guy like that with that much money, he wouldn't even be signing his own name. He would have a handler that would be signing off his document. You know what I mean? He'd have some like a full-time lawyer just sitting there at his anytime.
So you're trying to ask what's the motivation? What would motivate this guy to sign some cards? To take some time out of his day to sign some cards?
Just not worth his time.
Just imagine. And look, I'd love this to happen if he could snag a deal with Tyson Beck.
I think Tyson would probably go bald, to be honest, if he did get that deal.
Tyson would faint. Let's be real.
Alrighty. So I was tempted to use the drum roll again, but I don't want to overuse this sound effect. So the results were 52 for Fleer and 60 for Star. Now, if someone counts differently to me, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that because there was a few people went on these huge, elaborate comments, and I couldn't even work out who they were voting for, so I just omitted those. And on our own
unless
page,
there was a clear,
you could have an opinion and you could vote, but you couldn't be murky about it. So I was like, right. And then on our own page, it was 6 + 6. Yep. So the final score was 66 to Star and 58 to the Fleer. So our winner,
so the Star.
Yep.
That surprises me. Maybe that's a sign of the recognition this card is getting now. I think over the last couple of years, it has got traction and there has been a lot of shift.
What I was trying to, really achieve here was get some sample size, get some validity to, what we're talking about. I still think, it's better than 12 votes, obviously, but at the same time too, it's relatively small sample size because I think the people who would be voting on that are a different type of fan that might perhaps view that the 86 is more iconic. So maybe the casual fan is the person who views that as more, or the investment groups, think that's what is what. Whereas, true hardcore people who are, loving and love the hobby, et cetera, et cetera. So look, I think that's a good place to leave it. Thank you, Amir and Team Bangman, for your ongoing support. You are now our primary sponsor of the podcast, Amir. So thank you so much for all your hard work behind the scenes, working with us. May Bronze Edition has dropped of the Bangman's custom repacks. 2021 Prism Cello, 23-24 Prism Blaster Pack, 21-22 Mosaic Fanatics Blaster Pack, 21-22 Optic Timor Pack, 2021 Flux Blaster Packet, 21-22 Select Timor Pack, 22-23 Select Fanatics Blaster Pack, 1920 Hoops Premium, Mega. I love the Hoops Premium. Delicious. 22-23 Hoops Blaster Pack. 19-20 Chronicles Blaster. So we've got a range of years there to try and hit you some nice rookies in that. All 10 packs for $129. Pay ID, PayPal, Afterpay, ZipPay. Hit up the Bangman on Facebook and Instagram. And again, Amir, thank you so much for all of your ongoing support and love. And on that same note, a little bit of a sad goodbye for us. So DJ Cards have fallen off our sponsorship roster. We wish DJ and his team nothing but the best. We hope that he comes back again soon to work with us because, again, it's been an honor and a privilege. So guys, check out DJ Cards. They run a repack called Slambox, which is amazing. And I'm saying that from my own personal experience going in his breaks. I might not have always hit, but in terms of value for money and the thought that they put into that product, it's a really good product and you will enjoy yourself out there. So we are back. And this next segment is from our friend Ryan from GemRate. And we're going to listen to a clip from Ryan. He's going to be talking to us about a segment. To be fair, he actually did this probably 2.5, 3 weeks ago. Part of that was Ryan was a little bit slow to reply to me. And part of that was that I forgot to put it into the run sheet last week. So, a little bit my fault.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of Ryan's fault. Like, let's be fair. We need to share the blame on this one, Ryan.
I'll sit back and eat popcorn.
Eat popcorn. Have a listen to what Ryan's got to say. Look, he's a really smart dude. So if you don't understand it all, you're in my boat. I probably understand about 50% of what Ryan says.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. But look, what he's going to be talking about is his iconic tracker, which is something that he's basically come up with. Each month he focuses on different cards that have come through the grading, and he's going to break it down for us, and then we're going to reply back to him in live real time. So enjoy.
Hey guys, it's Ryan from GemRate here. Just wanted to provide some quick notes on our April iconic tracker that we released over the past few days. Overall, it was actually a little less of a noisy month for the overall. There are 105 cards that we track every month, and the volume graded for those cards dropped 1% compared to March and was down 21% compared to April of last year. That's a pretty similar trend year over year from the March report as well. So we're kind of seeing things hold a little bit steady here. Things are definitely down with these specific cards on our tracker year over year. But I don't think there's anything to raise too many flags or to be too alarming here. It's just a trend that we're sort of seeing, which is a little bit of a decline in volume in some of the more iconic cards. That is important. The reason we've come up with this report, I've mentioned this a couple of times, but that's in comparison to the record-breaking trends we're seeing on an overall basis. So the reason the iconic tracker exists is to specifically hone in on the cards that a lot of people care about in this hobby, not necessarily frequently graded ultra-modern cards that are driving a lot of the activity you see in their overall trend. So just important to highlight that. And then from a basketball-specific standpoint on our track, a couple things to highlight. Well, actually, let me just step back. From a share change standpoint, which is one of the things we also highlight, we have two ways we measure it. There's the population-weighted trend, and there's also the equal-weighted trend or share trends. The population-weighted is something that doesn't account for or will factor the volume a card is graded. And the more cards graded, the more impact it'll have on the share calculation. So something like the 1986 Fleer Michael Jordan is actually one of the more impactful cards when you look at population weighted, especially from a basketball standpoint, because it's graded quite frequently relative to a lot of the cards on this tracker. A lot of the cards in this tracker are things like very infrequently graded, like a National Treasures Luka rookie or a 2013 Giannis rookie. You have a lot of vintage cards, basketball cards in this tracker as well. You have a lot of things like precious metal gems, like the Jordan precious metal gems and things like that as well, or the jambalayas. So something like the 1986 Flair Jordan, it's going to be graded significantly more. So that's going to have more of an impact on something like the population weighted, where the equal weighted trend that we share allows every card. So, if somebody were to grade a 2018 Luka NT RPA, that could have a pretty big impact because those are rarely graded. And so if you graded a few of those, a few cards with lower value typically don't see, that can have a big impact on the equal weighted average. So with that set, PSA did lose about 1 point roll from a population weighted standpoint to SGC. So what that means is SGC is just seeing a little bit more of the higher volume cards. And then PSA gained about 3% share, a little over 3% share on the equal weighted, which just means that PSA happened to grade a few more of these less commonly graded cards in April. So that's sort of the macro trends or the big picture trends from the tracker this month. And then a couple just anecdotes as it relates to the specific basketball card. So a couple things that were interesting. The Michael Jordan Flair that I've been mentioning was actually up 11% versus March. So you're seeing 11% more of the 86 Flair Jordans across all graders graded in April compared to March, which is meaningful. Not a huge share change there. Sort of the proportion of cards going to each grader was pretty consistent. And another card, though, that was actually pretty important. So two cards. One is the Kareem rookie. Saw a significant uptick in grading activity in March. That was up 32%. And that was on 102 cards graded, so compared to roughly 70 the month prior. And then the other card that was interesting that we specifically called out on one of our slides was the 72 Dr. J rookie. And the reason we called that one out is SGC has just been slowly gaining more share with that card over the past few months and sort of is approaching all-time highs as it relates to like the volume or the proportion of cards they're grading specific to that card. So we like to call that out. We just think that's an interesting card to highlight, which does play into sort of SGC's sweet spot for strengths with vintage right now. And so that's just most people I think do associate SGC more commonly with baseball vintage, but you're definitely seeing some of the work that they've been putting in over the past few years start to creep into things like basketball vintage as well. So those are sort of the big picture trends. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes to walk through sort of one other really interesting anecdote, because we do have one slide that sort of highlights just cards that are really rarely graded. So these are cards that either you don't see any of in a given month typically, or maybe you see one, or maybe you see two copies. There was one card that was highlighted in the tracker this month for basketball that was the 2013 Giannis Silver Prism rookie, and two of those were graded in the PSA 10. There's only 81 of those that have been graded all time, including these two. And so it's pretty unusual to see two of those graded in a single month. And we did see that in April. Most likely what's happening is it's not one of these cards that was sitting in somebody's collection and just waiting around to be graded. These were likely crossovers in my mind. It's pretty rare to see PSA 10s for this specific card, and there are GS slabs, so I'm guessing that somebody crossed it over in this instance. But there were two of those added to the pop report in April, that card oftentimes doesn't get graded in a given month. So just interesting to call out there. But that's it. Thanks for giving me a few minutes to talk about the iconic tracker in April, and hope everybody finds it.
Well, thank you for that, Ryan. We really appreciate contributing to the show and all your contributions to the hobby, Ryan. You really are an asset to the community. Where do you want to start, Ad? I'll let you kick this one off.
There are just numbers just rolling through my head right now. I'm actually looking at the tracker. I went through. I filtered it by basketball cards only, trying to follow it for what Ryan was talking about. I'm looking at the Julius Erving.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, it brings it straight to the card ladder data. If you're so inclined to jump on to GemRate and have a play, that iconic tracker sort of can deep dive it. There's a lot of small font there. So if you want to know where the things to pop out to, maybe increase the font size. I don't know.
I think the pros of what Ryan is doing is the data he's collecting. I think the cons are is navigating it all. So I love these posts because it's literally someone explaining it to you. And that's why I've been really asking Ryan, send some of this in. So this is awesome. These are my takeaways from what Ryan said. So he explained share trend really well. So there's two parts of the share trend. One is population weighted, and where that's impactful is the most easy example is the 1986 Jordan, because there's lots of those cards being graded. Yep. The equal weighted part is when every card is then just participates equally. So he explained that really well.
Yeah.
The things that I found really interesting was the 1986 MJ, which is up 11% in March. And we've just been talking about that card. So despite the fact that Star is number one, again, I can't even say the people's choice is the Fleer card, but there is still a lot of love for this card. And, it's a very liquid
purposes.
card. Different purposes, different audiences. It's like a Prism base or a silver. This is the one that is very liquid and it's moving around.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that Kareem rookie cards are up 32% because I actually think that he's an undervalued, underappreciated, part of our hobby. So that's interesting for me in that, that's something going on. And then the 72 Dr. J rookie, that to me is quite fascinating because that almost fits the narrative in my head that SGC is all about vintage. But where it doesn't fit in my head is the PSA battle, because I would have thought people would be wanting to take them across.
Maybe.
So Ryan was talking about Giannis's and crossovers. I wonder if they're being crossed over from... So they've been tried at PSA first. Okay, no, not good enough grade. Flip them over to SGC, see what they've got to say over there, because I think the relative cost of doing that, and also with vintage, people still do like SGC. I don't think that's going to impact the price too much. I think actually it's worth the risk getting it across. So, and then Ryan's really good insights on Giannis. I don't really need to repeat that, but I will. He suspects they're crossovers. I love those insights from Ryan. So
yeah.
Final thoughts on this one, mate. What have you got?
So much to go through. I don't go through GemRate anywhere near as much as I should. But if you really want to deep dive data on a card, this is where you go.
Yeah.
And Ryan's done some amazing work, and it's really got such a broad range of information that is condensed and sort of laid out for you to play with however you want, to understand cards in ways that I don't think as an individual it's easy to do. And this is all the information's here in one spot. So this is amazing. And it's you always find something curious about a card that may not grade particularly well in a certain way, or you can find opportunities, I think is the message I get.
What we should do is have a break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk all NBA teams.
Sounds good.
Sounds fantastic. We are back. Thank you everyone for coming back. We hope you enjoyed the break and some tunes. Adam, let's talk all NBA teams. So all NBA first team, Luka, Shea, Tatum, Giannis, Joker. Second team, Jalen Brunson, Ant-Man, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, bit of a surprise for me. Kawhi Leonard, also a surprise for me. Third team, Steph Curry, bit stiff there. Devin Booker, Halliburton, LeBron James, Domantas Sabonis. Adam, what is your biggest winner out of this group?
Biggest winner? I think Anthony Edwards on the second team.
Okay.
That's pretty impressive. He did have a very good season, but like we're talking, he beat out people like Booker and Curry.
Yeah, specifically Curry. That's the one. Yeah.
And Halliburton too. Like, as far as guards go, like, wow, that's impressive.
That's my answer is Halliburton, because for two reasons. Small market, he's had a massive impact to be named onto that.
Yeah.
I do wonder some of these commentators don't even know who the Indiana Pacers are, to be honest. Like, they're on national TV and they're an NBA team. So that's, to me, really good. Also, too, from his financial standpoint, he now gets a massive bonus. So congratulations on the extra cash, brother.
Domantas Sabonis, though, like, he doesn't get the love he deserves. Honestly, he seems to get snubbed in a lot of things, and it's nice to see him actually sneak into the third team there. Yeah,
no, definitely congratulations. And he's played really well this year and a massive part. But you know what I'm going to say. I think he should have been left off and Fox should have been on there. But, like, whatever.
One king for another king.
That's it. Yeah.
Sacramento gets their representation.
That's it, yeah. All right, biggest losers. What have you got?
Biggest losers?
Yeah, for me, it's Steph Curry.
Yeah, maybe. But Brunson and Edwards did pretty damn well.
Definitely. But I just feel as though, in my head, the hierarchy is still that Steph should be first team and someone should be knocking him off. And so for him to be knocked off to third team, that's where I'm kind of a bit, is that right? Particularly with Kawhi Leonard in the second team. Like, that doesn't sit well with me.
Kawhi's a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. But
KD?
I actually thought KD had a good year this year.
How good is the question, though?
Well, second team All NBA, right?
Yeah. Do you think Davis over LeBron is a narrative of sorts with the Lakers? Because I think LeBron had a great season, but I think Anthony Davis is the reason the Lakers made the playoffs.
Yeah. Look, I actually think that's more of a connoisseur thing, where if you were watching the Lakers, game in and game out, if you watch 40 or 45 games of the Lakers, you would understand that, and it's not even a thing. So I think that's the type of thing where obviously, people have gotten it right. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't watch 45 games of Lakers this year.
Do you know who
Not
played more than 45 games of Lakers this year? Anthony Davis. This is his best season.
Yeah.
Statistically, this is his best season.
And he was making that big hoo-ha about defensively too. So
yeah. And I think it's well deserved, but yeah.
Why don't we pick a player each from these 15 players and talk about some card values, Ad? Because look, at the end of the day, that's what we're really here for, I think.
Well, I'll pick AD just because.
Yeah, good one. Do AD. Yeah, great.
Where are we?
And I'm pretty sure you know who I'm going to do.
LeBron.
I'm going to do Tyrese Halliburton.
I thought you were going to do Domantas Sabonis.
I mean, I could, but
very entertaining. All right, Anthony Davis. There we go. I'm not going to go all-time data. Let's look at maybe the last AD rookie. Anthony Davis, Silver Prism, PSA 10, last sold for $1,425.
Yeah, right.
Has a population of 33.
Yep.
Which I think is a pretty low population. Is actually down almost 50% on the last 12 months.
Okay.
So yeah, bit of a drop in Anthony Davis's value in the last.
Buy, hold, or sell for you, Ad?
It's tempting to buy at that price.
Yeah.
For me, it's potential for a buy, but I don't know.
Are you worried that you'd be buying it when he's playing well and he's healthy, and then he's going to get injured, and then?
Well, this is the first time he's played like over 70 games kind of thing and put in a great effort. Do you see that again next year? Do you go back to the old Anthony Davis who's out for half the season? And
particularly when there's teams lining up to draft LeBron's son so that LeBron will join them. And then where does that leave Anthony Davis?
There was a comment made during the broadcast this weekend. Rich Paul let it slip that LeBron's a free agent.
So he hasn't picked up his player option.
They're I think Rich Paul leaked that LeBron is not re-signing, so he's opting out.
Sure.
So he will be a free agent, and yeah.
Okay, well, great. How many teams have got cap space? 2? The 76ers and what?
Atlanta will pick him up on a veteran deal, use the number 1 pick to draft Bronny, and...
No way he's signing from being on that.
Oh, goodness, yes. He just wants to be in the spotlight, doesn't he?
I love all these managers, agents leaking stories to, try and drive the narrative they love. I love all that stuff. I bet you he hasn't even declined his option.
Not yet.
Yeah, right? It's just...
It's like, let's see how the public react to this.
That's right, yeah.
I wouldn't be selling my ADs if they dropped like this. Would be my... if I have them, I'd hold them. If I wanted one now, it'd be an okay time to buy. 1,400 for...
What's the trend the last 3 months, Ed?
Steady. Very steady over the last 3 months.
So he hasn't gone up, he hasn't gone down.
No.
Yeah,
the last 6 months, he's down 10%.
Right. Okay. So you could make a pretty strong argument. This is almost his floor now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, every time it's dropped into a similar bucket. This is the lowest it's been in a while.
Yeah.
13 or 1,400. So it used to sit up in around that 2 to 3K mark.
Yeah.
So all time, the highest it sold for was, let's forget the COVID crazy time in 2021, where it sold for $24,500.
$24,500. I'm shaking my head for people at home that can't see my face right now.
Yeah, 24K March 12th, 2021.
What were these people thinking?
Yeah.
I suppose we all were bored and had COVID.
May 23rd, so literally like 3 years ago, 8,600.
Yeah, right. Do you ever see those numbers and go, actually, this is a really good deal because of how much it's gone down, despite the fact it still might not be a good deal?
I look at the other sides of the mountain to see where it's at, and if I ever have one of these, I've got a Kobe rookie that did something similar.
Yeah,
and I'm like, as much as I love that card, there are times I wish I'd sold it at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm doing Halliburton now. There's a reasons why I'm doing Halliburton. He was drafted by the Kings. I like the Kings. I'm holding some Halliburton. That's no secret. The other reason why I like him too is because I find him very divisive. So, for example, if you compare him to Anthony Edwards is all dunks and scoring and swagger and trash talk. Halliburton's a really broken but effective jump shot. Not above the rim. He's below the rim. He's very intelligent. He's very well spoken. He doesn't trash talk. They're so different, right?
Very, very much so.
So that plays into my mind too. Should I just be buying into somebody who's all the hype and, not the skill? But I do like the skilled guys. Now, the other reason I'm a little bit divided on this too is the price. So at the moment, he's pretty much an all-time high. His last sale is a straight upward line. That could be just a one-off. It could be the new trend, but I suspect it's a one-off and it's going to come back down. Last sale was $485. All-time high is $510. In my head, the $350 price is probably where I'd be liking to be buying this. And before that, actually, it was sitting around the $315, $485 mark. It was sort of fluctuating up and down a little bit there. But look, I think in terms of long-term being like a high-end prospect, this year you might actually argue that it is, 2 or 3 years ahead of time where he should be. So that would be your future prices argument.
Yeah.
And they've been very fortuitous in terms of their playoff seeding and then bracket and then also injuries.
Yep.
But at the same time too, this has been amazing because now he's getting a lot of people, watch this guy play and he's been really good. Look, he's had some moments
because he was out, but
sure. And look, he's probably not going to come back this playoffs. I would suspect he's cooked now. But, he's had his moments of being, pretty bad. But he's also had his moments, too, of just being, breathtaking. And 100% of his skills have been on display. So, I like this kid a lot. And this is probably something that, I'm just going to keep watching at this stage. I personally think this is a sell for me at this point or a hold. Probably not being a buy yet. But, the other thing that's also in my mind too is a little bit was all that stuff we said about Anthony Edwards. We were like, don't buy this now. But then, what did it spike up to? 1.3. Do I think it's going to go to 1.3? Probably not. But, that's still in the back of my mind there. So Nuggets and Wolves, we haven't spoken about this since the last podcast. So it was an absolute Game 7 classic. If you haven't seen it yet, get onto League Pass, get onto whatever alleged illegal streaming service that you use that's not League Pass if you don't have League Pass. It was an absolute classic. If you're short on time, watch from sort of halfway through the third quarter through to the fourth quarter. It's just amazing TV. It's just all the reasons why I love sports and I love the NBAs because the Nuggets were winning by 20 and the Wolves come back and just blew them off the floor. It was just a breathtaking display of power. I think is the right word.
Yeah. Yeah, they willed it. They willed it. It was the will to win. It was a team effort too. Like it wasn't just Anthony Edwards. It was everyone. It was Rudy Gobert with fadeaway jump shots. Like what's going on?
Yeah, sure.
It was a good team effort from the Wolves, and I don't know. It was surprising. Like I thought they were capable of it. But until it actually happened, it was like, really? The Nuggets are going to get dethroned?
I was shocked. I wouldn't even say I was surprised. I was shocked. I genuinely thought that the Nuggets had this in the bag. I'm like, this is where they wanted it. Back in Denver Game 7, they've overcome this 2-0 lead deficit. They've regained the series.
Bang.
Yeah. Look, I'm still a bit shocked, to be honest, that they're not playing anymore. So, but at the same time too, the better team won. So congratulations to the Wolves, really well deserved. They've got a great team. And actually, I don't need to say, dare I say it, I enjoy watching them play now. They've actually grown on me quite a lot.
Yeah. It was very, very,
and I was wrong about their team construction. Yeah. So,
yeah. Can I just quickly jump in on the, just a quick, because it's a week to week thing at the moment with Anthony Edwards.
Totally.
I've got the 2 weeks data for Edwards. His last sold price is $1,029.
Okay.
So he's
kind of holding in there.
He's at 1,000 at the moment. So he was dropped to the 1,100 last week.
Yeah.
From 16 the week before.
Okay.
So I think we're at the stabilizing bit, that $1,000 card. So
okay, great. So it's now $1,000 card.
Yep.
All you guys are buying them up for $300, $500. Congratulations. You've done very well for yourself. Card ladder headlines, noteworthy sports card in the hobby. Anthony Edwards, 2020 Panini Prism Fast Break Bronze PSA 10. Last sold for $10,500. Again, we're talking massive price points here. I love this 100 times more than the silver PSA 10. I know it's a very different price point, but at the same time, anything that's numbered to 20, but it's not exponentially higher than the other card that we've just been talking about. I think that's a really, really, really good purchase, despite the fact that they're buying it in a boom. I still think that's going to hold out really well long term. So huge congratulations on that. All right. I think what we should do is go to our next break ad. And then when we come back, we'll talk more Wolves. We'll talk about the Wolves versus the Mavs because we've had some awesome games.
Some stuff's happening there for sure.
Yep. All righty. We have got a new sponsor supporting the show. And actually, they're a name that you'll be very, very familiar with. It is the Hobby Hangout. So thank you very much.
They've sponsored us before.
They absolutely have sponsored us before. Sydney Hobby Hangout, the 16th of June at the Roundhouse Anzac Parade in Kensington, 11 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Tickets on sale at thehobbyhangout.com.au. So get your tickets there, thehobbyhangout.com.au. Furthermore, speakers, sports cards, 75 plus stalls, live breaks, trading zones, trading card games, entertainment. They've got it all. Lane Pierce is going to be there from the Hobby. Poker Zone, Breaker's Den, a panel featuring Matthew Payne. They've got heaps of stalls, Eastside Collectibles, One Stop Poke Shop, Gamers Combined, Neon Trading Cards, on and on and on and on. Thehobbyhangout.com.au, 16th of June. Now, we do have a big announcement coming up, but it's going to be coming next week, Ad. I'm just going to tease this out a little bit. We can't say anything, but it's got to do with the Melbourne Hobby Hangout. That's all I can say.
Oh, there's a Melbourne one. There's going to be another Melbourne. Of course there's going to be another.
The announcement is coming imminently in the next couple of days, but that is going to be coming from official sources, not from us.
Our focus is on the Hobby Hangout Sydney at
That's
this
correct.
stage.
That's what the advertisement was
That's
about.
Right.
Exactly.
We are focused on that at the moment. But don't worry, if you're in Melbourne, you won't miss out.
Wolves versus Mavericks. The first two games have been insane again. Luka has been absolutely dominating. Not that we will give Luka any acknowledgement on this podcast. We will only poo-poo this kid.
You can't effing comp me.
I'm sure that's what he said as he hit that game-winning 3 over Gobert. Come on, man. That was awesome. Even if you're not a Luka fan, that was sick. Yeah.
Yes. I'm waiting for him to tell me I can't comp his cards anymore. But yeah, it was. Look, cometh the moment, cometh the man, and this is. Yeah, well, Lucas stood up.
Yeah. For the lip readers at home, I think their ears were burning. That's all I can say. The language was not PG or G rated that he said to Gobert. Colourful. Something in there about "you can't guard me" was the words that he used.
He said he was speaking Slovenian. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sure it was still something about "you can't guard me." Player versus player. You're gonna like this ad. Luka versus Anthony Edwards. Alrighty. Luka Doncic, fast break black 1 of 1, BGS 9.5, autograph 10, or the 2020 Donruss Optic Anthony Edwards 1 of 1 signatures fast break PSA 9. The Luka sold for 15, nearly 16K.
Mm-hmm.
And the Anthony Edwards sold for 9.7. Ad, what have you got?
Ooh. I'll probably take the Ant.
Okay.
No offense to Luka.
No, I'm not. I'm not offended at all.
But it's a one of one versus a. Oh wait, is it? Yeah, they're both 1 of 1s.
They're both 1 of 1s. Yeah, one's graded by BGS, one is by PSA.
Oh, one's a 9, one's a 9.5. Oh, This is tricky.
It's super juicy too, isn't it? Particularly,
well, I can't rag on the pop count of the Luka if it's a 1 of 1.
No, you cannot.
Pop count of 1, fine. Nah, I'm still going to go with Anthony Edwards.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to break this down. So for me, a 1 of 1, I would like to know that the card is in relatively good condition. And after that, I'm not too fussed because it's a 1 of 1, right? So whether it's BGS 9.5 or a PSA 9, even if it was PSA 10, that doesn't move my needle very much. So let's just sort of put that as even, right?
To a side, yeah.
They're both 1 of 1s. I actually find the Luka more aesthetically pleasing. Now, also too, I'm looking at Luka's autograph or Luka's mum's autograph in this instance. That to me looks like it's an on-card autograph, whereas the Edwards is very clearly a sticker autograph. So again, I'm going to give the Luka another point. Now, I think where all of this, particularly in the short term, where this is going to be super interesting, because in 2 weeks' time, if Edwards reels off 50 points for 3 games in a row and the Wolves win 3 games in a row, we might feel differently about this. But where I'm sitting right now, Luka has just gone balls out, talk some amazing trash. They're up 2 games to 0 on the Wolves' home court. We have to acknowledge this. So
agreed.
Look, I've kind of always been Team Luka anyway, just by default because of how much you hate Luka.
I don't hate Luka.
That's not the message you portray, though, Adam. So
I think the public overrate Luka.
Okay.
They're giving him his ticker tape parade before he's won the trophy.
Hobby-wise, yes, but in real life, no. So I'm going with the Luka. Look, I really like this card. I think if I was buying it, though, the price difference, does come into play. So if I'm just going on price ratio alone, actually, I think the Edwards is a really good buy. But
yeah,
I think if I'm spending that much money, I want an on-card autograph. I know that's a funny thing to say,
fair.
but
so that's
probably
completely reasonable, rational. Yeah.
All right. Next on this run sheet is Wemby. We have to talk about Wemby.
He's not even in the playoffs. Why are we talking about Wemby?
Well, actually, he has done something significant. So he's the first rookie ever to be selected NBA All Defensive First Team. So
that's pretty cool.
I think that this is something we should, at least discuss. Okay. So it actually says here that other people who were named second team All Defensive, but not first, Kareem, Hakeem, Manud, Bol, Tim Duncan, and David Robinson. So, he's in really, really good company here.
Not too bad. Yeah.
Look,
those players did all right with their careers.
So when Gobert got named unanimously the Defensive Player of the Year, I actually thought I was going a bit crazy because I thought he was going to get a lot more votes than how it played out. So this has sort of regained my sanity a little bit because I'm like, actually, okay, good. People do acknowledge he's a good defensive player, but they just say he's a step down from who the winner was. Okay, so I'm totally fine with that. But at the same time, too, I do think he was done a little bit dirty on that voting. So I think what we should do, this is a really good time for us to check out let's have a look at his base, because I was actually having a look at his base.
Wemby.
Yeah, PSA 10s. And he's had a lot of movement in that space. So I think now's a good time for us to segue into some cards from that little bit of knowledge. The PSA 10 base Wemby rookie last sold for $142. Now, these were selling for $300, $500 at one point. So
this is just base. This is not silver. This is base.
No, base, yeah. So they're pretty well consistently selling for 100, 140. The silvers are consistently selling for 1,000, 1,211. That's that sort of price range that they're floating around in. Look, I think that we've been pretty consistent about this in that this mass-produced base type cards are not something that you're particularly wanting to go out and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on.
Yeah.
So I don't particularly feel like this is something that's news for our show or our listeners. But at the same time, too, I think it's really good for us to discuss because...
Or just to point it out.
Yeah, this is a current trend in the hobby and, where we're going. So even if you go back to, even early May, they were trading for that sort of 170, 180, 190 mark, even down to 150. So there is a bit of variation on it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in a relatively short period of time, and the 22nd of May, one sold for 500.
Wow.
So they've moved. That's Aussie. So let's call it 250.
Sure.
American, just for argument's sake.
Yeah.
But
it's still, you've got to be, it's that whole hype train.
Yeah.
People just want to get a hold of it, and people are more likely with FOMO to try and just...
Yeah.
And look, people wanted to get it. Yeah.
People wanted to get on board. Yeah, I think at this point, if you are going to be purchasing one, I think you do have to factor that in. That it's probably going to go down even another 50%. Because I think, we talk about comping cards sometimes, and it's a little bit difficult to directly comp. But why don't you look at, say, a Zion Williamson base? Why don't you look at a Ja Morant PSA 10 base? Look at the all-time history on that. So this is where that type of data, comes in, really handy.
The historical data more. Yeah,
that's right.
Definitely. Yeah. That's a good point. You can look at a card that has, or a player that has had a similar journey.
Yeah.
And then sort of timestamp where that journey is applicable.
Fast forward 3 years and, where are we going to be at? Right. Yep. This next story is from the real 27 guy. He's someone that we've spoken about on the show before, or many times. Haven't spoken about him for a while. He did this story about an eBay card, which was basically a Jordan metal card that someone took a red texture to, colored it in red, submitted it to BGS, who deemed it to be authentic but altered, didn't give it a grade, and then that person then listed it on eBay as a precious metal gem. And interestingly, actually, BGS put on the label precious metal gem, which is also part of the story and part of the problem. So it's not actually a PMG. So PMGs, how you would work this out quite easy. So PMGs are numbered. This is an unnumbered card that's been colored in red. So
it's been altered to have the numbering removed.
Yeah. But again, we were talking about with the different variations of the Jordan star card. This is the type of thing where, if you don't have this intimate knowledge about everything or something you're bidding a lot of money on, that's a separate issue altogether. But it's not a stretch for me to sort of see myself in this scenario at some point in my life. So I never want to be too hard on people when this stuff happens, particularly when people are doing dodgy stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So fast forward 2 weeks, it actually sold for $23,000 on eBay. The person's paid for the card. So now, the next update or, next week, what I hope we're going to hear is that it fails the authenticity process when it goes through eBay, because it will go through that process.
Yeah.
Speculatively, people have been saying on the post that the Real 27 guy put up is that the authenticators from eBay will look at the slab and that's it. They won't judge the card, examine the card per se. So it'll pass that. And then can you get your money back through the eBay guarantee? I'm not too sure about this. So look, I'm going to put my opinion, very early on here. And this is for me, probably an echo chamber a little bit, because this is where PSA is king. So if this was a PSA card, you would return the card back to PSA and they're giving you back your money. That's what the money back guarantee is all about. You're not getting that from SGC. You're not getting that from BGS. So I don't think that necessarily gives them an easy out, because I think this looks absolutely putrid for BGS.
Wow.
But I'd also say too, like, this is the bed that I'm now lying in. I'm very happy with a PSA pillowcase and a PSA duvet wrapped around me. I'm
surprised you're not wearing your PSA baseball
hat.
Cap.
Yeah. PSA colored makeup too. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just go all in but this really just hammers that point home though, for me. Like, that's it. That's all I've got to say about this. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Ballsy move.
Just dodgy though.
And this is where you've got to do your research. Anything you get into, if you're new to the hobby and you're buying...
Just to interrupt, where I disagree with you on that, though, is you trust that BGS have done the right thing, right? And this is what I'm saying. Like, I can see myself in the situation, Ad, right? Because you go, okay, great. This is a PMG.
This is a Jordan. If the card says altered, is how is it altered?
Yeah, but you would still think it's a PMG, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
This is where I'm a little bit conflicted on all this. I don't want to go too hard on the buyer here.
Yep.
And the seller knew what they were doing.
The seller was.
And the person who colored it in and sent it into BGS, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you, Ad.
That's the dark side of our hobby, right? But
definitely.
It's you make a very good point that eBay probably won't protect. There's a chance that they won't. And PSA, if it was a PSA slab, they would protect. They guarantee it.
Well,
it's their reputation.
Yeah.
But God, it's an expensive lesson to learn.
Yeah, that's right. That's a stinker, isn't it?
23 grand.
Add it to the list of another way to how you get scammed in this hobby.
Well, and that's one of the things where you get into any hobby. If it's going to cost you a lot of money, do your research. Just understand before you spend large amounts of money. Know what you're getting yourself into. Know what you're buying. What the risk is.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. Anyway. All right. 2 more things, and we'll tie this bad boy off.
Cool.
A Caitlin Clark 1/1 Blue Viper was listed on the Panini Instant website.
Yes.
The listing price was $25,000. This was 5 days ago, and it had 15 hours until it went up for sale. So I checked the website. It's not there anymore. So I'm going to assume that it's been sold. So, we're talking really big biscuits here for this type of stuff. She's been playing pretty good so far, but the old heads of the WNBA have been giving her a really hard time. So
yeah,
she hasn't been setting the league on fire, but it's her first year. Give her a couple of years. I'm not too stressed about that. So just really quickly, there's still other cards. There's a Jaguar number to 10 for sale there for 2,500. A White Tiger to 5 for 1,400. Although that doesn't look like it's got an autograph on it. A Jaguar to 10 autograph for 1,200. So there's still a bit for sale on there. The last thing for this week's show that I think we should really talk about, is this ongoing issue or trend with the current kabooms from this year's product. So basically, the centering east-west is really off. Yeah. And there's two things that make it incredibly obvious is that the lettering's cut off, and there's also like a border on the inside of the card. So it'd be very easy for the grader to measure the east-west, whether it's aligned or not. And so currently the highest graded of these cards is a PSA 8.
Wow.
So we've been talking about Panini not having the Wembanyama autograph. So what are the cards that's going to matter? We love...
Kaboom is the...
I love kabooms. I'm going to say we love kabooms.
Kaboom's
Downtowns, all this case hit type of stuff. The numbered prism stuff, I think, has been really important, or is going to be really important for Wemby.
Wow.
And so I'm really, really conflicted on this because I think grades do matter. And so what does this mean for this card? What does it mean for Wemby collectors? Where do you sit on all of this for this year's Kaboom?
Do you reckon it's the whole print run? Because we don't know how much has been graded, right? Like it's...
Okay, we talked about sample size earlier in the day. Yeah. I think there's enough of a sample size now to say that, there's something worrying,
concerning with the way it's been done.
So to take your point, though, I think if a PSA 10 does pop up, it is going to absolutely just go crazy. It's going to go for, huge numbers. But
is there, because you were talking about borders and set and stuff, is it a chance that the back of it was intentionally off-center by Panini?
I don't think so.
No, but I mean, is there a template of the... Like, I don't even know how the grading procedure works in the background. This is just my brain thinking. And I know there are printing plates for cards, right?
It's either a printing error or a cut error. So
Yeah. So if you've got the printing... Like, if they understand how these cards are printed, they should know what a perfect centered one should look like. I wonder if there is a mismatch. Surely not all... if the highest one is an 8, there's a problem somewhere.
Yeah, I think that root cause of it is actually it's a printing thing. So putting my conspiracy hat, I'm using the alleged words, all the rest of it for these next two things I'm going to say. So Panini have been using different printing plans for their products this year. Some Prism's been printed in Mexico. Now the Crown stuff was printed in USA. So going back to previous years where we've had a few printing problems, let's be real here. It's traditionally all been printed in the USA. I actually think the stuff that came out of Mexico this year was pretty good. So I wonder if these printing plants in the States have just got systematic problems in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Far out. Look, problematic maybe we should just be getting them authenticated.
Or just leave them in a really nice one touch, like a magnetic, and just show it off like that.
Authentic.
Look, if the card gods smile at me and grant me a Kaboom, I'm not going to send mine off to PSA. I'm just going to keep it raw and just put it into my special, my lockbox. I think that's it.
Yeah, agreed.
Final thoughts, Ad?
Well, I'm not chasing this year's Kabooms. No.
Okay. All right, you're out. You're out of the Crown breaks.
No. Look, I don't know. Watch this space on Luka is my final thoughts for this week.
Let's go, Mavs.
Let's see if I'm if I'm going to have to eat some humble pie.
Mavs in 5, eh?
Wolves in 7.
Thank you to all of our Central Coast radio listeners. Thank you to all of our podcast listeners. Thank you for all of your support on social media, your interactions, your likes, your comments. We can't get enough of it. Have a lovely, lovely day.
And we'll see you next week.